Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and the podcast. This is Conversations with Carnivores. And of course, we're here tonight to talk about carnivore and have a beautiful conversation with the amazing Jordan. So I have stumbled across Jordan on the Facebook groups, and he was sharing about how he's a tradie and he's really passionate about carnivore and wants to kind of talk about that sort of stuff with people. So let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So I gave a little bit of a sneak peek away from that. There's that you're a tradie, I presume. What trade do you do?
I am an electrician, so just doing an apprenticeship at the moment. I'm nearly qualified, so making my way through the ranks slowly.
Awesome. So if you need an electrician, maybe hit Jordan up. But let's get on to like the conversations with carnivore sort of stuff. And that is, how long have you been carnivore now?
So I have been a carnivore for about 6 months now. I had about a month off in between that, but yeah, I saw really good results for the first few months, and then something happened in my life where I fell off the rails for a little bit, and I've finally got back on it I was seeing great progress. So, and still currently very not I wouldn't say completely strict carnivore, but I do my best. So.
Yeah. Cool. So I have a couple of questions there because you fell off the wagon, so to speak. I think that's a really kind of lame term because I think about it like, for me, carnivore is a lifestyle. And I'm planning on doing some sort of version of carnivore, whether it be more ketovore, whether it be, a stricter version of carnivore for, the majority of my life. That's my plan. So when we have these little like fall offs, I don't kind of think of them as you've fallen off the wagon. I think of them as it was a learning opportunity. And I'm sure you learnt a lot of stuff through going off carnivore and then coming back to it. I would love to hear some of the things that maybe you did learn through that experience.
Yeah, so certainly. When I was carnivore, when I just first went carnivore, I went through a range of physical changes and mental changes. And I first got into it by doing the podcast, that sort of thing. What first drove me into it was I have been training in the gym on and off, say, for a good, say, 5 to 10 years. But I've never really seen results because my diet's never been in tune, and I've never really been that educated around the diet side of things. So this time around, about 6 months ago, I was like, if I'm going to go to the gym and put the effort in to try and be physically healthy, what does that look like? And how is my nutrition going to serve me the best? So I really started digging deep and looking into things, and stumbled across carnivore, and it was the best thing I ever did. It really has changed my life. But yeah, falling off the wagon, or as such, so going back to my standard diet, which I've lived on my whole life, really took a toll physically and mentally. As far as I put on a lot of weight, regained a lot of the weight I'd lost, was storing a lot more fat. My sugar cravings were out of control. So I was craving carbs multiple times a day. And I sort of gave myself a license in my own head that if I'm not a carnivore, I'm allowed to eat the normal diet, which is accepted in society. So I sort of gave myself that license to that comfortability. And yeah, it's a downhill spiral, one thing to the next, until finally about 2 months in. About a month in, about 4 weeks. One night I was just craving a steak, and I thought maybe my body's telling me like I actually need meat to survive. So I was like, that's it. And then that night I had a nice steak. The next day, straight back into it, and yeah, here we are.
Awesome. I love that. There's a couple of things in there that I want to pull out. I'm curious, was the podcast Joe Rogan? Did Joe Rogan get you into
I have
carnivore?
heard of Joe Rogan's podcast. I have listened to a little bit of it.
Yep.
But yeah, the likes of Sean Baker, Paul Saladino, Ken Berry,
Yep.
Dr. Kiltz, Robert Kiltz,
Yep.
really drew to those guys. And then all the people they socialize with as well. So there's endless hours of podcasts out there.
There
And
really is.
yeah, there is. And yeah, that's why I'm interested in getting that space as well. And hopefully that one day I can influence people as well that can see the benefits and experience what I've experienced over the last 6 months, which is nothing but great in every aspect of my life. So
Yeah. So interestingly, when you were talking about the gym, I had to have a giggle to myself because yesterday my kids went and did a drama class. So I had a couple of hours to burn. And I saw these guys walking into KFC wearing their gym shirts. Like they're
yeah,
literally promoting the gym that they must either train at or work at.
yeah,
They're going into KFC. And I was having a bit of a giggle to myself because I'm like, that just seems like a juxtaposition. Like, an oxymoron almost, like you're wearing your
yeah,
gym beef up shirt, but like you're going into the place that's going to make you sick.
yeah,
But
yeah. I've been there.
it's
I've
not
definitely been
uncommon.
there.
Well,
No, it's not.
it's
It's really not.
that whole space is filled with a lot of noise, but also a lot of uneducated sort of information as well. You
Yeah,
might not even, it might not have even occurred to you to think about food, and then suddenly, oh, of course, that makes sense. I should think about that. So hopefully more of these conversations can come out there and people can kind of go, oh, hang on, yeah. If I'm putting the energy into this, I should also put the energy into that.
yeah,
What goes
definitely.
in the machine, not just what
Yeah,
comes out of it.
yeah. And I
Um,
think people will go, oh, sorry.
no, you go, keep going.
I think people go into the gym sometimes, especially me, with like the wrong intentions. Like I think if you're going into lifting weights with the idea of, say, losing weight, and then not doing anything about your nutrition or
Mm,
diet, I just think you're going to have outcomes which aren't to your expectations. And
yeah,
people need to have more information and more clear picture about what they're doing, why they're doing it. And I just think it's built up to be like commercial gyms are like people that have just decided to, get on the health kick, but are they actually focusing on the right area, which is like the thing that's going to change their life? I don't think
yeah.
so all the time.
Well, there's some really great research about the benefits of exercise for longevity and health and wellness. But the even better results are when you actually pair the two together. Um,
Mm,
Interestingly, that space, like there's a lot of money put into targeting people in gyms. And one of the things that I see with my patients is that I see, because I work predominantly with women, I certainly work with men as well, but predominantly with women. And the thing that I see with women is that they use the gym as a punishment for the food that they ate. So I'm eating
mm,
a Snickers, so I need to go to the gym to work off the Snickers bar. And they're essentially punishing their body for the stuff that they put into it. And it's this whole
mm,
sort of toxic cycle, which I think if we can untangle that, we can actually get this beautiful benefit for both the dietary stuff and the actual physical strength benefits
mm.
of utilizing a gym as well. But it's very interesting. So
Yeah.
for me, one of the things that really jumped out to me when I saw your little thing in the Aussie Carnivore support group there was that you were a tradie. And for me, while I predominantly work with women, a lot of the men that I tend to work with happen to be either truck drivers or tradies. And that then makes me, one of the things that I've had to brainstorm with a lot of those people is how do you do something like carnivore when you're on the road 24/7 or you're transporting
Mm.
from one place to the other all of the time? So I'm curious about some of the things that you've found have been really helpful to support you in actually living your lifestyle and staying carnivore.
Yeah, interesting. So for me, when I first went carnivore, I was sort of listening to people, and they were sort of saying, eat till you're full,
Yep.
and, and eat when you're hungry, and that's what we're by. And I think going carnivore, if you're not, it's a big change, especially if you are in an industry where eating junk food and takeaway and drinking sugary drinks is accepted and it's just part of the culture. It's very, very difficult to think that that's possible. But for me, when I started out, I was eating when I was hungry, and that was say 3 to 4 meals a day. So that was breakfast, bacon, eggs. Lunch, I would take cold meat or something like that. Or if I was on the run, I would get some beef patties from down the street or something like that. And then when I come home, I'd eat predominantly meat, steak, or even chicken. I think at the start I was really going towards rotisserie chickens. I didn't know that they were also full of other stuff as well, which I later found out. But even with including these things in my diet, which aren't the most optimal choice for a carnivore, I think the fact that you're eliminating so much other things, you're still going to see ginormous benefits.
Yeah.
For me, it was always about being prepared, taking lunch, and then making sure I was eating enough. So I didn't go into it with the mindset of I'm going to be counting calories. I'm going to be doing all these sorts of things. I'm just going to eat till I'm full, and then I think I'm going to see enough benefits by not eating the other things, which I certainly did. I really did.
Yeah. And there's a couple of things there as well, but that's really good advice, especially for, predominantly like the market that you're going to be talking to are men. And that works really, really well for men. Like, men don't have as many hormones that they have to think about. And so they're a little bit more simplistic when it comes to the hormonal health of supporting their bodies. And I agree with you. So when I think about taking somebody on a journey, say from the SAD diet into carnivore, I look at it from the good, better, best perspective of like, good is okay, we're just eating meat, and maybe that meat's coming with some seed oils and it's coming with some other stuff that we don't actually love and like, but it's good. And then better is, okay, can we think about that from a, what could we do that might be a better choice? And then of course, best, what's going to actually be the best choice? And if we just start with that place of good, like I've had truck drivers that they've taken spam with them, and they've taken like, cheese and salami and all sorts of like things that you can just pick up at a supermarket, and they can chuck it in their truck and they can eat it. And they have been able to reverse their diabetes just with those things. And of course, spam's not a really great food. There's lots of good stuff in there that I don't really love. Even, some of the bacons on the market are not so fabulous. There's a lot of things that are not perfect. But when you've removed like 99 different toxic chemicals to you and toxic foods and so on from your body, the 5 that you're going to get in, say, your bacon or your something else is vastly reduced from what you were getting in all of the other stuff. So I completely agree with you from that perspective. But the good, better, best is a theory that I go with. Let's start with good, and then let's get better, and then let's move to best.
Yeah, and I 100% agree there. I think even if you're in the just starting out and you're in the good, I think what you're eliminating, you're gonna see dramatic changes and benefits from. Like that's the real killer in my opinion. It's not really like in my head, I'm sort of thinking, what food can I eat that's not going to cause any inflammation and is going to keep me alive and thriving? And then if I just eat that, how my body should look after itself and treat me right, essentially. If we're eating things with any sort of in excess that we're not biologically designed to consume, no wonder we have negative health outcomes. So I think even if you go from the SAD diet to salami, processed meats, these sorts of things, you're still going to see huge benefits. And I definitely did. And then I've obviously fine-tuned that over time with finding out more about seed oils and things like that. So
And I think that that's the natural sort of progression that a lot of people go on is, and I
Mm.
find it so I've been carnivore now for probably about 17 months. And so
Yep.
what I see from other people is this progression of they just start. And then as they go along, maybe there's a couple of things that haven't quite resolved for them. So they start to refine it a bit more, start to get rid of a couple of other things that might be causing them specifically problems. And
Yeah.
it just tends to be more of the natural progression that you start with maybe a bigger range, but it's also like, there's some dirty carnivore stuff in there, and then you move to a little bit more cleaner and you get more awareness and you gain more knowledge and understanding about why you're doing the things you're doing. And then you can, of course, make better choices. But I think that, like, for some people, it can seem overwhelming if they start, they go, okay, I'm going to do carnivore, but I have to eat grass-fed, panda massaged meat from the day one and has to be, completely perfect, etc., that they then never start. Whereas if you just start,
Mm.
go with some of the dirty stuff, move over time as you start to build the patterns and
Yeah.
the different ways of eating, all of that type of stuff into your
Yeah.
lifestyle, you'll get to a place where you're like, yeah, you know
Mm.
what? I'm really happy with the food that I'm eating because it's probably as clean as I'm going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. A couple of people that I've helped progress into carnivore, I've got a couple of friends that I've helped progress that direction. And how I started out, it is daunting, but how I started them out was, let's just start with, we look at your diet and then we'll eliminate things, because it is an elimination diet. And
Yep.
it's not saying you have to go 100% straight away. If you have these health issues, this is your diet. This is how you're feeling. This is how you're sleeping. This is how your mental clarity is. Let's just eliminate things as you go. There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Yep.
Anything you eliminate, I'm sure you're going to benefit from. And you may avoid, say, I'm not an expert on like the keto flu, but if you do a slow progression, you might actually avoid those symptoms to an extreme if you just rip the band-aid off straight away, which I was a bit sick for a little bit there, but I'm glad I pushed through because it was worth it well and truly.
I'm a band-aid ripper. I'm like, let's go hard or go home.
Yeah.
We're either in or we're out. But I also realize that not everybody is me and can't can't actually do that. And they need a bit more of a slow progression. So
Yeah.
for me, when I usually start people out, it kind of depends on their personality, whether they're the go hard or go home, or whether they're like, let's just tackle one habit at a time, as
Mm,
to which way we go. But if they're that one habit at a time, I'm like, let's start with breakfast. Let's just get breakfast going as a carnivore, and then don't worry about the rest of the day. Get that nailed. Do that for a good week. And then let's go with dinner, because that seems to be the next one that's easy to do. So let's do
yeah.
breakfast and dinner. We'll book into the day. Who cares about what you're having for lunch? I won't. Don't tell me. La 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 la. And then let's work on lunch. And then let's work on those snacks that are still creeping in, so that we've slowly changed it over. And you've built in the skills of, like, what does breakfast look like? What does dinner look like? What does it feel like to feel satiated and not actually hungry anymore? And
Mm,
all of that type of stuff. Whereas if you're the go hard or go home, I want you to pick your favorite carnivore foods. Like, for me, it was like salmon and a sirloin steak. And like, I picked out my favorite things and I made sure my fridge was full of them. And I just ate until I was full. So there was no room for anything else. And I did that for a good 2 weeks before I then went, okay, now I might calm down and budget a little bit more on how I'm going to actually do this. So I'm
yeah.
curious, what did you do? You ripped the band-aid off? Did you just
I
ate a
definitely
steak
ripped
and
the
went from
band-aid
there?
off. Definitely ripped the band-aid off. And I just thought, this was before any research, but I just thought, all right, I'm gonna give the gym a crack and I'm gonna try this. And then I was researching along the way. So um, I started out fine and I was like, oh, this is no worries. Probably the first 3 days. I was eating lots of bacon, lots of eggs, lots of steak, lots of rotisserie chickens, these sorts of things. And I was enjoying it, feeling great. But then, yeah, I think around like day 4 to day 5, the sugar cravings started to kick in. And that was more like after dinner. I was having these like urges to get a sugar hit, just because I think it was more of a habit as well. But yeah, I think a vast majority of people have developed a habit of sugar since they're born virtually. So I think that personally definitely have a sweet tooth, sugar addiction, and no control, no moderation. And yeah, I was craving that around day 4, day 5. But then I didn't have anything. I think I found out about carnivore ice cream. So off Robert Kilt. So I made that. And then I was having that. I had that one night, and then I had it the next night, and then I realized if I just give myself a license to eat this, I'm going to be doing it every night. So I was like, okay, we're getting rid of that now. And yeah, and then the keto flu kicked in for about, I'd say, 3 to 4 days, and I'm not sure if I had enough supplements. I didn't supplement or anything like that. I just sort of ripped the band-aid off with going in blinded. So I didn't supplement or anything like that. So I wore the full brunt. I was pretty sick for a few days. And then I was doing all the research while I was sick because I took time off work as well. And I felt silly. It was like, this is just self-inflicted pain. Like, what am I doing to myself? I was like, this just seems so silly. So I took time off work and then finally come good. And then, I think the sugar craving slowly went away over time. But I realized I couldn't moderate cream. I can't moderate heavy cream. So I've just left that out. And then like once a month, I might make it. But I find that I'm satisfied enough off a nice steak and eggs. So
It's funny. I think we all find our little things that we can't moderate. And I loved, there were a couple of things that you've said previously as well. I am absolutely a sugar addict, like 100% hands down. Like, sugar is like crack. And I am definitely addicted to it. And it's interesting because I don't know if you thought about going keto at any point, but I'm in the space with a lot of other keto people, and I'll often hear them talking about some of the things that they're eating, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds so yum! Like I'd really just love to have an avocado or something like that. But then I have to remind myself that for me, an avocado is a gateway drug. It's the gateway into if I have that, then I might as well have a little bit of dot dot dot, and then that leads into dot dot dot, and then that leads into cake and pavlova.
Yeah, that's it. I've really struggled. I've always struggled with moderation and stopping when I'm not full, when I'm not satisfied. And these foods that are high in sugar, they're never actually going to satisfy us until we're feeling really sick. So we're going to keep eating them. That's how we're designed to. And then it's pretty much torture if we have to put it down because we know it's not good for us. So,
oh, for goodness sake, yes. Like I don't know for you, but I'll share my experience. Like I know for me, if I have anything that has got some carbohydrates in it, then it's going to take me 14 days of being like a nut crazy person rocking in the corner trying to not think about eating the biscuits or whatever else is like at the local shop, etc. Like 14 days, I'm like, that's a lot. That's a lot of days.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm curious for you. Were you a sugar addict? Are you a sugar addict, or are you like
100%? Yeah, I was really, really bad. And I think my diet wasn't terrible growing up, but this is the thing that you could talk about for hours. But like since even when we go to primary school, like we're having cupcakes for lunch, the canteen, like we're just getting hooked on cereals, like breakfast cereals, which are promoted to be health and the most important meal of the day. Like we're just getting hooked on sugar at such a young age. And that was certainly me. I was always physically active, and sugar was called energy, so it was accepted. And we'd have snakes, and we'd have lollies, and we'd have there was never any judgment about eating any kind of sugar when I was
I
growing up,
know.
and it's just
It's all
accepted,
very
and
socially acceptable.
it is very acceptable. And I think because people, we like, it's obviously a quick hit of dopamine, and really, we really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But we're eating it in excess now to a point where it's not normal, not natural. We're not designed to handle this much of it, much sugar. But they don't actually
Yeah.
realize sugar is in every product. Everything in the supermarket has sugar. And that's why, I was really, really hooked. Sweet tooth, like out of control. I can't moderate ice cream. Like I'd eat lots and lots of ice cream, chocolates. So when I first started my apprenticeship, I was doing service calls. So like we'd go fix a light switch or fix a fan or fix an oven or something like that. So we could do like 3 to 4 jobs in a day. And on the way, after we finished a job, we would just go straight to 7-Eleven and the nearest one, sit there, get a iced coffee and I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
like a sugary iced coffee and orange and poppy seed muffin. The amount of them, I reckon I had one of them every day for a year or two straight. And then lunch would come around and we'd get like a banh mi and then like another muffin or vanilla slice to wash it down. Like I was really, really addicted to sugar. And now I've actually experienced myself where I'm not even thinking about it. I probably think about it all day, but I'm not craving it. And yeah, it's amazing for me. Like I'm actually really, really happy where I am at the moment. Not thinking about it, not looking at it, and thinking I want to eat that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have no cravings or urges anymore. So it really is. It's changed my life. Um, and I hope that other tradies specifically can see the light of day because it really is like society is pretty warped on nutrition, but I think the trade industry, from what I've seen, takes it to another level. Like obviously people from all walks of life can eat junk food, but the trade industry, like it's actually accepted to buy your lunch every single day and have no regard for health, run on Red Bulls and Monster Energy all day, and be overweight, have illnesses, all these things, be on prescription
Yeah.
medications. Like these things just can be so easily fixed, which my friends who are tradies that are trying it have actually fixed their joint pain, things like this. And it really is just it's a life-changing thing for me. So
That's so awesome. There's a couple of things that I want to say, and one of which is the majority of people, when you go out to buy food, most of us aren't thinking about getting a salad.
yeah, exactly.
Most of us think of like, I'm spending money on food. I want to buy the thing that I really like. And
Yeah.
we think about it as a treat type of thing. So I've like got
Mm,
no rules around what I'm actually going to get. So I'm getting the meat pie or I'm getting the, the McDonald's or the KFC or the whatever else it is that you want to get because you want to pick something that you like. And there's often no rules around the treat reward that you're kind of picking.
yeah.
So when that's your everyday, you still have to go with it with that mentality of I'm going
Mm,
to get the thing that looks really great, like
yeah.
the poppy cake, like
Mm,
the thing that I actually really like,
mm,
and as opposed to I should choose something in moderation for my health because I'm doing this every day. That's just not how we roll in regards
yeah.
to our mentality when it comes to buying food. So
100%.
that's one aspect. The other thing that I want to say there is it's really sad that, like, I think about tradies as the people who are, along with farmers, they make our world work. If we didn't have tradespeople, we wouldn't have a lot of the conveniences that we actually all
Mm,
enjoy most of the time, living in a house, turning a light switch on or turning a tap
yeah.
on, or, even living in a house because the tradies built
Mm,
that house.
yeah.
We wouldn't have these things. So I think of them as people we should be really looking after, because
Mm.
they are the lifeblood of the actual community. Everybody needs a tradie from, some perspective in their life, one way or another. And it's sad to think that a lot of them are on prescription medications and are suffering with pain that they don't necessarily need to be having.
Mm. Yeah, it is really sad. And I think even more for me now, um, since I've experienced being a tradie and not having any care about it, is really sad. And I'm seeing what really frustrates me is seeing these young kids choose to go through an apprenticeship, and all the people above them that they look up to and surround themselves with are just um, killing themselves from the inside out. Like they're just making have no regard for their health, um, overweight, and like the best part of the day is like smoko and lunch, and like the question everyone asks every day is, "What are you buying?" And like that's the great debate of every single day. That's the highlight of people's day, and I think it correlate. There's a direct correlation I've found with people that don't really care about their health. They actually don't care about their work either, and they don't really enjoy
Yep.
being there. And I think it goes hand in hand because the highlight is the food, but for me, the highlight is the accomplishments I'm achieving with work
Mm.
now. I'm so much more. I've got really good mental clarity. I just feel like kids are being led astray, like as they're coming through the ranks. And it's hard for me to.
Oh, we've just lost your sound. Did you accidentally press mute? Oh no, it's back.
Might
It's back.
Is it there?
It's back. Yeah, it's back.
Oh,
We got up to, seeing kids come through the ranks. And
yeah.
yeah,
I think it is sad, and I see it every day. Now I'm really conscious about what I'm eating, and I think I have a really clear picture because it's worked for me. I think,
yeah,
and I've heard a lot of people, but the people I've heard from are all promoting it as well, in a sense. Like they're all saying it's working for them, which is great. And I've had that personal experience, so I love it, and I think I have a really clear picture of nutrition in my head. Um, I'm not saying any other way eating is wrong. It's just what I think. But it is hard for me to go to work every day and just sit. The trade industry really is people eating junk food every meal,
mm,
smoko, lunch, and they really are just have no regard for their health. And apprentices are following the traditions which are set before them, and
yeah,
it really is sad to see. And I watch people eat 2 to 3 times a day, junk food, monster energy drinks, coffees. Like it really is hard to be around. And that's what's driven me to um, really start promoting this. I'm having these discussions at work as well now with people to try and just give them some insight into what's worked for me,
yeah,
and hopefully lead people in a direction which they can achieve better health, which I
yeah,
think everyone
awesome.
has the right to feel good, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm curious as well as to how your workmates have gone with that. Like, do they feel judged by you, or are they like interested? Do they rib you? Like, how's that actually go?
Um, so it first started with so I've recently moved companies, but the old company I was with, the tradespersons, the trade people around me really were exactly what I've described. And it was actually hard for me to be around because I felt judged because I
Yep,
was trying to make healthy decisions, and they were sort of criticizing me because I was not conforming with society essentially. So I was the odd one out. I was the
yep,
extremist making calculated decisions about my health. So I left and started with a new company. And by the time I went to the new company, I was eating 1 meal a day. So I was eating about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
yep,
So this was really interesting. So this is on a bigger site, and there's the crew I was with, say, could range between 10 to 15 people, virtually say 80% of them every day buying their lunch. And I had to sit there from day one and explain to all of them why I have no food and why I'm not eating. And the names I got called, like starving myself, unhealthy, all these things, while they were just getting into a meal deal or a burger or a kebab or a banh mi or McDonald's. Like, it was really interesting. And what I've found is most people that aren't optimally healthy will have a negative, or if they actually have certain issues with food, they'll have a negative tone and won't
Yep.
receive other information well, especially if it's out there as far as saying only eat meat. It's easy for them to say, oh, that's not healthy, moderation, all this stuff, you know. But then the people saying it aren't really healthy, like physically, or I'd say mentally, they're not as healthy as they could be. But
Yep.
I'm starting to have discussions now just about even just trying to encourage people to bring their own lunch, and just with qualified tradesmen going and buying takeaway for their apprentices every day. I try and encourage, just ask why, or do they have any care about their health? Because I can see that these young kids are gaining weight, they're not active, and they're going to have health issues going forward if they don't already have health issues. And I think we just need better influences in the industry, and there's really not many. And it doesn't have to be eating meat. It could just be bringing your lunch, like home cooked meals, just something, you know. But it really is. The fish rots from the top down, and it's sad to see, especially now
Yep.
where I'm so conscious of it, and I'm not sure about the approach of how I should go about having these conversations, but I'm definitely looking into how to approach people without sounding judgmental or opinionated or an extremist, just generally caring about their health and well-being. And I think everyone deserves to feel better. Like me,
Yeah.
I'm so addicted to how I feel at the moment. Um, I'm so lucky to have stumbled across it, because I've never felt so mentally and physically healthy in my life, and not dependent on food every 5 minutes. So I'm just really grateful, and I need to work out how to spread that message through the industry with caution and the right mindset.
Yep. And I think that that's a dance in many ways that we kind of have to do in regards to allowing people to ask questions, and or
Mm,
even asking questions in response. So for example, when it comes to moderation, like a lot of people will say, oh, eat everything in moderation. I'm like, well, how much sugar are you actually eating in moderation? And I'm curious as to what moderation actually is. Like, what defines moderation? Is moderation eating it every day? Is moderation eating it like once a month? Like, what is actual moderation? Because that's going to be vastly different. And asking questions, I find, actually allows people to get their cogs turning in their head, and they start to question
mm,
things versus making statements. So if you make a statement and it's completely something that they disagree with, they automatically shut that off in their brain. But when you ask a question, their brain, even if they don't give you an answer, actually cognitively goes and looks for the answers to that question. And just starting that thinking process is one of the best ways to actually help people start to progress in their actual
mm.
journey, by helping them tap into curiosity. And even subconsciously, you ask somebody a question, if they can't find the answer, their brain will work on it until they find the answer. It's like that
Yeah.
moment when you meet somebody in the street and go, oh shoot, I know your name but I can't think of what it is. 2 weeks later you go, oh, it was Damon. Brain thought about it for 2 weeks. And so it was working on it in the background. That happens the same when we ask people questions. So
Yeah.
that, and leading the
Yeah.
way by example, like
Yeah.
being the example that you actually want to see out there, um,
Yeah.
are great ways to actually do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to be the healthiest and physically looking the healthiest on the job site, and just show people that what I'm doing is right. And then I feel like at least if I look healthy, which it's not really that hard on a job site, to be honest, but at least if I look healthy, and I'm not drinking sugary drinks all day, these sorts of things, I think people will be more inclined to listen. But
Yep.
as you said, like if you come across with the statement, people are so quick to just shut it down and
Mm.
those sorts of things. But what I've found is like instead of going along the route of carnivore, I'm sort of questioning what's included in the standard diet, and not really focusing on the meat side of things because that's easy for people to just like shut down. So I found
Mm.
if I just bring up things like that's accepted in a standard diet and question those and have those conversations, people start to realize like, oh yeah, maybe what I'm being told isn't right. And maybe moderation isn't for me. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm still
The
working on that. And I'm going to be continuing to try and spread the message just at a small level, but also through social media. And I've never really had social media, but I think definitely needs a lot of help. If you go along to these sites, you see what's going on there. Like the site bins will be full of junk food boxes and that sort of thing. So it's it's really not what you think, but I just hope that I can reach even like one person, but I hope that some people can start to get on board and influence others in the space as well.
Yeah. And I think like the other aspect that I was going to say there is for a lot of people, they need to know what it looks like. So for me, when I've worked with my patients on getting them on different dietary protocols, the number one thing that they come back with is, well, what do I eat and what does that look like? And so that was what I actually, when I first started my business, really dedicated my time and energy to, was to show people what a plate of food actually looks like and what breakfast might look like, what lunch might look like, what dinner might look like, so that they can actually get a visual image that is different to what they've been previously seeing on their plate and so on. So I would
Yeah.
highly encourage you to show people what you're actually eating so that they can start to get a visual image as well of like, I could do steak and eggs and bacon. Like, yeah, I like all that. That doesn't seem
Yeah.
hard. And what? I don't have to eat the lettuce and the spinach that's there, the rabbit food or the stuff that my food actually eats, not me. You
Yeah.
know, I can imagine a lot of blokes would actually go for that.
Yeah. And I do find it difficult because when I don't bring my lunch, I'm not really showing them how to eat this kind of way. They just think you
Yeah,
don't eat. Like when they see me, they just think, oh, he doesn't eat all day. That's impossible.
yeah.
Um,
See, I would probably, if my intention was to influence people, is my intention, what I would actually do is I would choose if I was going to do one meal a day, it would be lunchtime, and I would be the bloke there that's got the best meal that everybody else is going, oh, can I have what he's having? Like that would
yeah.
actually be my intention, and that's what I've done previously. You know, if we've got shared dinners and things like that, I'm the
Yeah.
person that brings the slow roasted lamb that's been basted and everybody is drooling over and want to get a piece of,
Yeah.
versus the lady who's got like the salad that, you know, kind of looks pretty but nobody wants to eat.
Yeah.
Like I always challenge myself with those types of things to be the person that brings the most delicious food to
Yeah.
make everybody else's mouth water and wish that they had what I had.
Yeah, interesting. And that's the thing, like the foods on the carnivore diet are delicious. Like most people will find them delicious, and people just think it's hard to not eat other things. But when you really break it down, like so many options on the carnivore diet are delicious, and I'm never craving any other food. I'd crave steak and eggs, and for 6 months, that's been my reality, and um, I just eat when I'm hungry, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really good point. I think I could just change what times I'm eating to really just show people at work what's achievable and what's possible. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just think that just the junk food takeaway consumption is just enormous, and it's a daily thing for a lot of trade people
Mm.
reality. And it's just accepted. And I just think people are neglecting themselves. And I actually think qualified tradespeople should have a duty of care to the apprentices that they
Yeah.
take on. It's not just about showing them, oh, this is how you do work, and this is how I don't enjoy work, and this is how I run on Red Bulls every day. It should be about, this is how I take labor intensive industry for most
Yeah.
people. So this is how I treat my body. This is what I eat, and these are the I'm physically active outside of this as well. Like setting the standard for people to follow, because people do follow, and they're just a result of their environment, and the environment is really, really toxic and hard to be around for me. So I'm trying to change it from the inside out.
Yeah, I get you there. One of the steps that I usually take through, so, you know, when I'm working with a lot of my truck drivers, one of the things that I usually take them through is looking at fast food and how do I order fast food on a carnivore diet. So, for example, you can go to McDonald's and you can order, you know, a quarter pounder and add an extra, you know, burger to it and some bacon and take away the bread, and like you can do all of those things. So,
Guilty.
what might that look like? And, you know, I've traveled Australia doing that, in the sense that,
Yeah.
you know, we've traveled Australia for the last 16 months, and
Yeah.
some days are driving days where we've driven for like 6 hours for the day. All we're
Yeah.
pulling into is a McDonald's. So, how do you
Yeah.
order from those places that they're already going to, so that you're getting to the good? And then once that starts to kick in, okay, let's get a bit better. Maybe let's not go to Mackie D's. Let's maybe
Yeah.
go to the supermarket and go
Yeah.
and get like some actual, you
Yeah.
know, food that's there. And then maybe let's bring our own food, and, you know, work your way up in multiple different ways.
Yeah. That's a good point. I don't think I've definitely been guilty of it, ordering McDonald's and these things on the run, but I'm making a
Yep.
calculated decision. Like, I'm looking at the ingredients, and then I'm making a calculated decision of the best of the worst. Like, what's
Mm-hmm.
that look like? And that's the thing. If you told someone, if they gave up their current diet and ate McDonald's, say twice a day for the next 3 or 4 months, they in meat patties and bacon and eggs and cheese, they'd probably see positive health outcomes. And people
Absolutely.
think that's crazy, but that's the reality.
That is the reality, because you've dramatically reduced all of the toxins that they're actually consuming within their diet. And then what
Hmm.
usually happens for
Yeah.
those people is most people don't stay there. Most people don't stay with doing that process. They go, I think I could make this even better. And then they start to
Yeah.
shift and change, and they start to make better
Yeah.
choices, and they start to educate
Mm.
themselves in having more, like, you know, we're looking at Christmas at the moment. It's one of the things I'm talking with a lot of people about at the moment, is like, don't let December turn into February because you decided on Christmas Day or around that time you were going to the work party and you were doing this and you were doing that, and you like blew
Yeah.
out everything, and then suddenly it's January and you're like, oh, I'll get back to it when the kids go to school or whatever, and suddenly it's February and you've lost 2 months. Don't let December turn into February. But the way that you don't do that is by making active choices, by actively starting to choose, what am I going to have on Christmas Day? What's that going to look like? And I know for my family, we're going through and actually looking to see what we can get. My son is like an avid keen cook. So he's like, I wonder if I can get a goose. So he wants to like cook this goose and baste it and do all of this
Yeah.
fun stuff with it.
Yeah.
So that meat
Yeah.
is going to be the most delicious meat that we can possibly eat. And
Yeah.
there's loads of experimentation and fun that you can actually have with food
Yeah.
still. It
Oh,
just
absolutely.
looks different.
Yeah. Yeah, the options are really like endless. Like there's always new things coming out, like especially if you're socializing with like-minded people. There's so many
Yep.
new recipes, ingredients, like methods of cooking. Instead of just adding sugar and it tastes good, it's kind
Yep.
of just like cheating. It's like you haven't really done anything. It's sweet. People like
Yep.
sweet food.
Play with a smoker. Get some smoky flavor in there. That's going to be like super fun as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the interesting things. Like when you go carnivore, Like every meal, every social gathering, you're going to be confronted with people that are questioning you, looking at you, judging you sometimes. And you just got to get used to having those discussions with people, and then thriving as well. So if you're thriving, you can truly believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I find it, and usually the people that are judging, negative, these sorts of things aren't open to what you're doing. They're not going
Yeah.
to be, more often than not, they're not going to be thriving. They're not going to be healthy. So yeah, you can fully, truly believe in what you're talking about if you are thriving and feeling really good. So I enjoy the conversations and welcome people to ask what I'm doing. So
Yeah. I do too. I enjoy those conversations. But for those people who don't enjoy those conversations, one of the things that I say to them is remember that you're coming to dinner, right? So if somebody's invited you to dinner, the reason for dinner is not the food. Like that's just the vehicle to bring you to the table. The real reason for dinner is connection. So if you're not into having the carnivore conversations and talking about those types of things, remember that the point of you coming to the table was to connect with people and set yourself a challenge to make people feel really good about having a meal with you by asking them questions, getting curious, like ask them things like, what are you passionate about? What are you really into at the moment? What are you working on? Or what are you tinkering with in the background that actually allows them to express themselves and talk and open up? And then suddenly you've got somebody who's super receptive, super keen to talk to you and had an amazing time because they got to talk about themselves. And nobody talked about the food that you ate. And
yeah,
so, there's loads of ways of engaging in those types of conversations without it having to be around food if you're not comfortable talking about it.
yeah, that's so true. And I've had a similar experience, I think, since being carnivore. I've given up alcohol as well. I've drank a couple of times, but I've given up alcohol for the most part, coming from, say, multiple times a week drinker to giving up alcohol. And what I found was I've still been going along to these social events and the pubs and like the knockoff drinks, those sorts of things. But I've been having a soda water with lime or something like that. And I enjoy that probably more than drinking and drinking and drinking
Yeah.
and then feeling terrible the next day and the day after. And I find when I'm there, because I'm not worried about drinking and getting drunk, I'm more engaged in conversations and
Yeah.
interested in people's lives. And it's not about the alcohol, it's about the socializing, being in the moment. And I've really found that as well. So it was interesting when you said that about dinners. It's virtually the same thing.
Yeah. Nobody cares what's in your cup. Like at the end of the day, if you've got water in your cup, nobody cares what's in your cup. You can play
Yeah.
a drinking game with water. You're just not going to lose.
Yeah, exactly. And since being carnivore, I've really, and giving up alcohol, I think they go hand in hand for me. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the alcohol, I've got a really negative tone towards it at the moment, and I really couldn't think of anything worse. And that's actually hard for people to hear because I'm only 23, and that's a normalized thing for people to be doing in their 20s
Yeah.
is consuming lots and lots and lots of alcohol. But I'm at this point now where I have no interest in drinking alcohol and more interest in socializing. Like, I think my levels of interest in catching up with people have gone through the roof, and which is just another crazy response to eating meat.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you too. Like, I couldn't think of anything worse than drinking. I go, tomorrow I'm going to feel lousy and crap. And then I'm going to look at my bank account and feel even worse.
Yeah.
So, there's no fun there for me in that
Nah,
whole
and
thing.
then you'll be hungry for some takeaway later that day. You
Yeah.
won't be bothered cooking it, and you won't be wanting to go for any exercise. It just throws your whole thing out of whack.
Yeah.
And yeah, I- I've gained a negative, a negative, and I'd probably rather delve into sugar than alcohol. So, and neither of those, that's definitely not happening. So that's sort of where I sit with it at the moment. And the thing is, I actually can be around people consuming these things, and I'm not worried at one bit. I
Yep.
think because personally, I feel the best I've ever felt.
Mm.
So it's like I'm running my own race, I'm doing my own thing. And then if people are looking to improve their health and well-being, I'm more than happy to share what I've learned over the journey of 6 months, which is not very long, but I'm sure some people could benefit to what a personal experience is. So I'm not
Yeah.
pushing on people, but if people show they're slightly interested in making changes, then I'm more than happy to help. And yeah, getting off track, but the trade industry really like is personal for me because I'm in it every day, and it really is tragic watching people just eat themselves to ill health, obesity, diabetes, prescription medications,
Yeah.
all these things. So I just want to be positive to even like just the people that I'm around or anyone that gives it a go. I'm sure they'll be just as addicted to their health as they were eating like the standard diet. So that's what it
Yeah.
was for me anyway.
Well, I think too, just a few extra things in that when it comes to the letting go of like the alcohol and being able to be around people who are consuming those things, I think when you're full, satiated, and satisfied, the
Mm,
drive to want to join in is greatly reversed. Like the desire to
mm,
want to jump in actually isn't there. When you feel amazing, you don't feel hungry, you're feeling satisfied, you actually, from a neurochemical perspective, your meats are filling up your brain chemicals. So you've got lots of serotonin, you've got lots of dopamine, you've got everything working for you, norepinephrine, etc. They're all
yeah.
working for you because you've filled them up with the amino acids from your steak and your meat and your eggs, etc. And so
Mm,
you're not looking for that dopamine hit from the sugar. You're not looking
mm,
for that dopamine hit from things like alcohol and those types of things because you don't need them to
yeah.
actually stimulate you in that way because you're already good. And
Yeah.
I think that that's something that a lot of people miss is that there's food freedom, even though you've reduced the amount of foods that you're actually eating. There's food freedom because food isn't controlling you anymore and you're actually able to just go, yeah, I don't need that because I'm full and satisfied and satiated. And I think that
Mm,
that's an aspect that most people don't get when they're looking at it from the outside and going, but you're on this very restrictive diet. How can you have freedom? Um,
mm,
Certainly, that's been my experience that when I'm feeling full, satisfied, and satiated, food does not control me. Whereas
yeah.
when I'm not, it's controlling me.
Yeah. I'm much the same. Very much the same. And yeah, I think at the start I was sort of I was doing the avoidance method. So I was trying to keep things
Mm-hmm.
away while I transition
Yep.
to like a fat burning metabolism, whatever
Yep.
you might call it. But now I'm more than comfortable and anything can sit in front of me. I can be around people drinking. Um, and yeah, I just don't see the point now. In the last time I drank, I had negative feelings to do it. I felt forced.
Mm-hmm.
I was really didn't really want to do it. I was sort of doing it just to keep the peace.
Yep.
And during it, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want to get drunk. And as soon as I finished, instant regret. And I felt guilty, shame. And the next day, physically and mentally, I was well below my best.
Yep.
And that was enough for me. And that's turned me off since. And it wasn't that long ago, but um, I have no intent in drinking anytime soon. Um,
Yep.
and I just know that I feel like feeling this good is addictive, and
Yeah.
I'm well and truly addicted. And that's the thing. Like people say, oh, it controls your life. It's so addictive, and I've been called the way I eat disordered eating. So I've been like I have an eating disorder. But I think like I heard someone say if you have to eat food every, say, 2 to 3 hours, that's probably disordered eating.
Yeah.
Like, what's natural? What are we biologically designed to be doing and eating? Just because it's happening in this generation doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean
Yep.
that's how we're going to react best to it. hence why we have a incline in what every health issue, obesity, diabetes, like yeah.
Yep, I'm with you there. It's interesting. Like I always think other people's views are interesting, so I try and keep myself open to seeing where they're coming from and why they're thinking the way that they're thinking, even if I think what they're thinking is incorrect. I'm kind of
Yeah,
like curious about where's that coming from. What is the underlying factors here? What are the fears and things that I'm hearing in this? But one of the interesting things that when I was listening to you, I was like. Uh, I don't know about you, but like when you are not focused on food every 2 hours, there's suddenly so much time in your life. There's suddenly a lot of time to actually do other things that you might actually enjoy versus just eating and
oh,
then
there
cleaning
is.
and disposing of it.
Yeah, there is. Mm. Yeah, there is. And food, really, if you eat the standard diet, you're
Mm,
thinking about it every, say, half an hour or to 2 hours. You wake up, you're thinking breakfast. You go to work, you're thinking coffees,
mhm.
smoko, what's going to morning tea. If you work at a hospital, you go into the brew room and there's cupcakes, muffins, Tim Tams on the table, and then you're not full. You're just going to have three or four, or then you'll go to lunch and you'll be getting takeaway, and you're thinking about food all day. And now I feel
Yeah,
like I'm so much more concentrated on the job, and I'm engaged in what I'm doing, and I'm focused on what's important. And the
yeah,
food is just in the background for me. My diet is just
yeah,
in the background. It's something that happens, and I look forward to it every day. But I'm not thinking about it every second of the day. And
yeah.
I'm once you get in a good routine, it's really enjoyable, and it doesn't control me at all. It just serves me, I think.
Yeah. And that's how it should be. It should be like your food is serving you versus you serving the actual food. That it definitely
Yeah,
should be that way. So,
yeah.
for anybody who's watching this at home and they're like, yeah, I'm really into what this guy's saying, where can they find you?
So I've just started a new Instagram page. It's called Carnivore Tradie, and it's just aimed at me creating a space for me to share my experience with carnivore, this way of life. And I'm hoping to, and I'm a tradie, so I'm in the trenches every day. I'm seeing what's happening on these job sites. I'm seeing how people are treating their own body, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to shed light on that. And hopefully, I can encourage other tradies to see the light of day, because I know when I was one version of myself and I didn't really care about what I was eating, my work was nowhere near as good. I was nowhere near as interested in my work as well. Um, and my sleep was nowhere near as good. I had cravings out of control. I was putting on weight, these sorts of things. And now, just since I've been eating as a carnivore meat based, the benefits on the job and my physical health outside of work is just skyrocketed. And I know my body is reacting well to what I'm doing, and it just shows that's what we're like biologically designed to eat.
Mm,
And I just want other tradies to give it a go and just think about making better decisions just for your short term and your long term health. And yeah, Instagram's Carnivore Tradie, very very new, only a couple of weeks old. I'm new to the whole social media thing, but I'm hoping just to give some tips and just shed some light on there is another way to go about work and your nutrition.
well, and that's the thing. At the end of the day, you don't want to be working your whole life doing, for some, very manual labor, and then not being able to enjoy retirement because you're on every medication under the sun and you spend most of
Mm,
your time in a doctor's office instead of, out fishing or doing something you actually really want to be doing. So
yeah, exactly.
there's there's certainly a way to do that. Well done for actually shedding a light on this. And hopefully, I hope a whole heap of people come and follow your page and follow your journey. And maybe you'll like start up some tradie group where you can all like encourage each other and cheer each other on as you go on the journey yourselves.
Thanks so much for your support, and getting me on the podcast.
You're very
I've really
welcome.
enjoyed listening to you as well. But yeah, it's good to talk to like-minded people that have had similar experiences, because it's hard to explain the feelings I've felt to people that have never made a educated decision regarding their diet, or like they've tried a fad diet for a couple of weeks. Never really a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
So it's good to talk to like-minded people.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to lead some people in the right direction. I'm really optimistic that people in this industry will come towards it and discover it, and yeah, do it for their own personal reasons, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just hope to change at least one person's life and relationship with food as a tradie.
Yeah. Good. So thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to maybe chatting with you again sometime in the future and following you along on your page. Otherwise, I'll say goodbye to you and thank you so much for being open and sharing. Bye for now. Remember, everybody watching at home, like and subscribe. Go like Jordan's channel or his Instagram, and we will see you again next time. Bye for now. See you later.